Deep within the mountains of China, ancient metal pipes are fused into solid rock. These are the Baigong Pipes, a collection of 30 mysterious artifacts that defy all logical explanation. By the end of this, you will have a complete picture of one of archaeology's most baffling puzzles, a mystery that challenges our entire understanding of human history. Who could have built a sophisticated network of conduits millions of years before modern humans walked the earth, and what impossible purpose were they meant to serve? What does it mean when the earth itself seems to hide a forgotten blueprint? The journey to this mystery begins in a place of profound isolation. Mount Baigong rises from the western edge of the Qinghai province, a stark and silent landscape of rust-colored hills and dry, biting wind. It feels like the edge of the world, a place forgotten by time. In the late 1990s, reports began to surface from this remote region. A group of explorers, drawn by local tales, climbed the desolate slopes and found something that should not have been there. Carved into the mountainside was a cave, and framing its entrance were 3 perfectly shaped triangular openings. They looked less like a natural formation and more like a deliberate doorway, a geometric invitation into the dark. Stepping inside, the chill of the stone was immediate, but the real shock came when their lights fell upon the floor. There, emerging from the solid rock itself, was a pipe. This is pipe number 1, the centerpiece of the cave. It is a colossal, rust-colored tube, roughly 40 centimeters across. To put that in perspective, that is wider than a large dinner plate. It does not sit on the rock, it is part of the rock, a seamless fusion of metal and stone that defies simple explanation. The pipe protrudes from the cave floor and appears to plunge straight down, vanishing into the mountain's heart. Its surface is heavily oxidized, stained with centuries or perhaps millennia of rust, giving it that deep, reddish-brown hue. The immediate, overwhelming question for anyone standing before it is straightforward, yet unanswerable. How do you insert a manufactured metal pipe into solid bedrock? This was not a later addition, not something placed into a pre-existing hole. The material evidence suggests the pipe and the mountain formed together, a notion that scrambles every conventional timeline of human engineering. A short distance away, the explorers found pipe number 2. This was a broken section lying separate from the main structure. While pipe 1 feels monumental, pipe 2 offers a different kind of clue. It is smaller in diameter, but its most telling feature is its consistency. The pipe wall has a remarkably uniform thickness throughout the fragment. In natural geological formations, you expect variation, pockets of different materials, irregularities born from immense pressure and heat. This pipe section showed none of that. Its symmetry is industrial, the kind of precision you get from a casting or extrusion process, not from a random act of nature. This fragment whispered of design, of a standard specification being met, long before such concepts existed in any human culture we recognize. Then, directing their gaze to the cave walls, they discovered pipe number 3. Unlike the vertical giant in the floor, this one was embedded horizontally, running straight into the stone face. Its end was visible, and it showed clear, unmistakable signs of artificial shaping. The edges were too regular, the circular form too perfect. Most compellingly, when later examined, it was confirmed to be hollow. A tube. This was not a mineral vein or a curious rock formation, it was a conduit. These 3 pipes, the vertical giant, the broken piece with perfect walls, and the horizontal tube in the wall, formed a crude but undeniable network. They were connected to each other, and they were connected to the mountain. In that silent, high-altitude cave, the discoverers were not looking at an artifact, they were looking at a system. And the purpose of that system was a secret the mountain had kept for a very, very long time. But the mountain was not the only keeper of this secret. The story of the Baigong Pipes does not end at the cave entrance. It leads down the slope across a stretch of barren ground to the edge of Toson Lake, a vast saltwater lake that mirrors the stark sky. And here, scattered along the shoreline as if discarded by some ancient tide, are more pieces of the puzzle. Pipe number 4 is the most prominent of these lakeshore sentinels. It is a massive, vertical stump of metal thrusting up from the gravel and bedrock of the shore itself. Like its counterpart in the cave, it is deeply oxidized, its surface a testament to exposure not just to air, but to the corrosive kiss of saltwater and time. It does not look placed, it looks grown, as if the earth pushed it up like a stubborn, metallic tooth. Its sheer size and location far from the cave immediately expand the scale of the mystery. This was not a single, isolated installation. It was a network with multiple points of emergence. Scattered around this area are the remains of pipe number 5. These are not intact tubes, but fragments, pieces of a shattered whole. Some are twisted, others are relatively straight, but the most telling fragments have distinct flared ends. This is not damage, this is design. A flared end is engineering. It suggests a connector, a joint, a way to link one section of pipe to another to form a longer, continuous line. It is the kind of feature you see in modern plumbing or industrial piping, where sections are bolted or welded together. Finding this on the shores of a remote lake, amidst rock dated to millions of years, is profoundly disorienting. It transforms the find from a collection of odd objects into evidence of an assembled system. Then there is pipe number 6, the most elusive of the lakeshore group. This one is not fully above ground. It appears as a dark, linear shadow just beneath the surface of the lakebed sediment, visible only when the water level of Toson Lake is particularly low. It runs horizontally, parallel to the shore, hinting at a submerged line that might connect to other points, perhaps even back toward the mountain. This submerged conduit adds a layer of functional mystery. Was it for drawing water, for dispersing something into the lake, or is it part of a foundation, a structural element for something long since vanished? The water has hidden it for ages, revealing it only in fleeting, dry moments. The context of these lakeshore pipes is what makes them truly inexplicable. They are not embedded in volcanic rock, which can sometimes form tubular structures. They are found in sedimentary rock. This is crucial. Sedimentary rock, like sandstone or shale, forms slowly over immense spans of time from layers of silt, sand, and organic material settling at the bottom of ancient seas or lakes. This process takes millions of years. The official geological dating of this region places the formation of this bedrock in a period so deep in prehistory that not only were there no humans, our earliest mammalian ancestors were just beginning to emerge. For these metal pipes to be inside this rock, they either had to be placed there before the rock solidified around them, an impossibility for any known human civilization, or they had to form concurrently with the rock itself, a process that defies everything we know about metallurgy and geology. The pipes on the lakeshore are not just artifacts, they are anachronisms, physical objects that exist in the wrong layer of time, waiting for an explanation that has not yet been written. The true strangeness of these objects only became clear when scientists took samples back to the lab. The initial analysis of the pipe material produced data that was both ordinary and profoundly strange. Take pipe number 7. When a sample was subjected to spectroscopic analysis, the results were startling. The primary component was iron, making up over 30% of the material. That in itself is not unusual. Iron is common, but mixed with it were high percentages of silicon dioxide and calcium oxide. To put that in plain terms, silicon dioxide is essentially quartz, the main component of sand. Calcium oxide is a key ingredient in lime, often derived from processed limestone. This was not a simple, forged iron bar. The composition of pipe 7 reads like a recipe, a deliberate blend of metallic and ceramic materials. In modern terms, this mixture bears a striking resemblance to certain types of industrial slag. a byproduct of high-temperature smelting, or even to a crude form of composite material designed for specific properties like heat resistance or durability. Finding this specific, complex blend fused into million-year-old rock is like finding a stainless steel spoon in a dinosaur fossil. The material itself is a chronological impossibility. Then there is pipe number 8, a fragment that deepened the material mystery. Its analysis revealed the usual iron, silicon, and calcium, but it also contained something baffling. Roughly 8% of its composition was made up of elements that could not be readily identified. The instruments detected their presence, a signature in the data, but could not match them to any known standard alloy or ore from the region. This missing 8% has sparked intense speculation. Could it be evidence of an advanced, forgotten metallurgical process, a technique that combined materials in a way we no longer recognize? Or does it point to the use of a local ore source so rare or so thoroughly depleted that it left no other trace in the archaeological record? This unknown fraction is a ghost in the machine, a silent hint that whoever made these pipes possessed knowledge or used resources that lie outside our current understanding of ancient or even natural material science. The most telling technological clue, however, came from the interior of pipe number 9. When researchers examined a cross-section, they found the inner surface was not rough or corroded like the outside. Instead, it was smooth, almost glassy. This was a vitrified lining, a layer that had been fused into a glass-like state through exposure to extreme heat. This is not an accidental feature. Think about the lining of a modern industrial chimney or a crucible used for melting metal. They are often coated with a refractory material that can withstand incredible temperatures without breaking down. Or consider a high-temperature chemical transfer pipe in a factory. Its interior is specially treated to resist corrosion from aggressive substances. The glassy lining in pipe 9 suggests a clear, deliberate function. This pipe was not just a structural support, it was a conduit designed to carry something. That something was either extremely hot, highly corrosive, or both. It transforms the pipe from a curious artifact into a piece of functional, high-specification engineering. The mountain cave was not just a room with pipes in the floor. It begins to look like the heart of a facility, a place where something powerful was generated, processed, or moved through this protected network of tubes. The very material of the pipes whispers of purpose, of a technology with needs and solutions lost to the depths of time. This level of material sophistication points directly to an even more startling reality, the construction itself. The design and fabrication of these pipes reveal a precision that dismantles any notion of a primitive, accidental origin. Take pipe number 10, a recovered section that seems almost mundane at first glance. Its cross-section is not roughly circular, it is a near-perfect circle. The consistency is unnerving. More telling is the wall thickness, which remains uniform along its entire length. In nature, you simply do not get this kind of geometric perfection. A lava tube or a mineral deposit will always have variations, thick spots and thin spots, irregularities born from chaotic natural processes. Pipe 10 shows none of that. Its symmetry suggests something else entirely, machining. Imagine a lathe, a tool that spins a piece of metal while a cutting tool shapes it to exact specifications. Or consider advanced casting, where molten material is poured into a meticulously crafted mold to produce a flawless form. This is the fingerprint of deliberate, controlled manufacturing, a signature of intent that cannot be explained by geology alone. That signature of intent becomes a blueprint with pipe number 11. This is not a straight section, it is a joint piece. It is where two pipes were meant to connect, and they do so at a precise, fixed angle. The connection point itself shows clear evidence of a mechanical fitting. There are markings that suggest threading, the spiral grooves that allow one piece to screw into another, creating a strong, sealed union. Alternatively, it may have used a fitted sleeve, a separate collar that would slide over the ends of both pipes and be secured in place. Either method represents a leap in engineering thinking. This is not just making a tube, it is solving the problem of assembly, of creating a network. It shows planning, foresight, and an understanding of modular construction. You do not build a single, isolated pipe with a threaded end. You build it because you intend to connect it to something else. This single joint piece transforms the entire site from a collection of objects into the archaeological remains of a planned installation, a system built piece by interlocking piece. Perhaps the most technologically disorienting clue comes from a broken segment, pipe number 12. When you look at its fractured end, you do not see a homogeneous mass of metal. Instead, you see a distinct layered structure, like the rings of a tree or the cross-section of a modern composite cable. There is a core material surrounded by concentric layers that each have a slightly different density and composition. This is not how naturally occurring metal forms. Nature tends to mix things chaotically. This layered structure speaks of a deliberate fabrication process. Think of modern rebar, steel rods used to reinforce concrete, which often has a hardened outer layer for durability. Or consider a high-performance drill bit where a tough tungsten carbide tip is fused to a more flexible steel shaft. Pipe 12 hints at a similar principle, a composite design where different materials are combined to achieve specific performance goals. Perhaps a hard, corrosion-resistant shell around a more conductive or flexible core. This is materials science, not simple blacksmithing. This precision stands in stark, silent contrast to the metalworking we know from ancient China. In the same broad time frame suggested by the impossible geology, the human cultures in the region were working with bronze, creating beautiful ritual vessels and sharp weapons using piece mold casting techniques. Their work was artistic and skilled, but it operated on a completely different scale and with different goals. They were not creating seamless, perfectly circular iron-based pipes with threaded joints and composite layers. The technological gap is not a small step, it is a chasm. The Baigong pipes do not look like the early, hesitant steps of a developing technology. They look like the weathered remnants of a mature one, a technology that arrived fully formed with its own rules, its own methods, and for a purpose we can only begin to guess. Yet the material composition was not the final layer of mystery. As researchers probed deeper, they encountered a phenomenon that shifted the narrative from the ancient to the almost apocalyptic, the faint, lingering whisper of radioactivity. This evidence centers on 3 specific pipes, and it begins with pipe number 13. In the early 2000s, a sample from this pipe was subjected to sensitive radiation detection equipment. The results were not catastrophic, but they were undeniably abnormal. The sample showed elevated levels of background radiation, and more intriguingly, the presence of specific radioactive isotopes that are not commonly found in a natural, undisturbed state in that geological environment. Isotopes are essentially different versions of an element, some of which are stable and some of which decay over time, emitting radiation. Finding an unusual isotopic signature is like finding a unique chemical fingerprint at a crime scene. It suggests a process, an event, or a material that does not belong. This fingerprint leads directly to the location of pipe number 14. This particular conduit is situated in a confined area deep within the main cave. Independent geologists who surveyed the site confirmed that the general background radiation in the Mount Baigong region is normal, typical for that type of rock. However, in the immediate vicinity of pipe 14, their meters ticked upwards. The levels were not dangerous, not enough to cause immediate harm, but they were consistently and measurably higher than the surrounding stone. This creates a hauntingly specific picture. The radiation is not smeared across the mountain. It is focused, clinging to the area around this one artificial object. This concentration fuels the most dramatic speculation. Could this pipe have been part of or close to some kind of energy source? Was it near a reactor core or a storage vessel for a powerful radioactive material? Or does the elevated radiation mark the aftermath of some form of catastrophic failure, an ancient meltdown or explosion whose energy signature was baked into the very metal and stone? The idea transforms the cave from a quiet archaeological site into a potential chamber of forgotten power. Naturally, skeptics offer a more grounded explanation for pipe number 15. The theory is that the radioactive signature is not proof of advanced technology, but simply a coincidence of geology. The area might contain unusual mineral deposits, perhaps veins of uranium-bearing ore, and over millions of years, through a process called secondary mineralization, radioactive elements could have slowly seeped into the porous metal of the pipes. It is a natural process like rust, but far slower and more subtle. This is a perfectly reasonable scientific hypothesis. Yet, the oddity remains. Why is this signature so closely associated with the pipes themselves? If it were a natural feature of the mountain, one would expect to find similar radioactive readings in the surrounding bedrock, in other mineral veins, not so tightly focused on these seemingly manufactured objects. It creates a puzzling correlation. The radioactive material appears married to the artificial forms, as if the pipes either attracted it, contained it, or were made from a material that inherently carried it. This radioactive evidence does not provide answers, it deepens the questions. It adds a layer of invisible, potent energy to a mystery already overflowing with physical impossibility, suggesting that whatever happened at Mount Baigong, it may have involved forces we still struggle to comprehend. This paradox of advanced engineering in primordial rock is the heart of the mystery. The most unshakable, scientifically verified fact about the Baigong pipes is also the most baffling. They are encased in stone that is between 5 and 6 million years old. This number is not a guess. It comes from established geological dating of the sandstone formations in that region. To grasp the scale, 5 million years ago, our ancestors were not building cities or forging metal. They were likely small-brained hominids just beginning to walk upright on the plains of Africa. The idea that a sophisticated iron and silica composite piping system was being installed in a Chinese mountain at that time is, by every standard account of human history, an absolute impossibility. This is the anchor of the enigma, the immovable fact that makes every conventional explanation crumble. Pipe number 16 makes this paradox physical. It is not merely stuck in the rock, it is one with it. In a specific section, the boundary between pipe and sandstone has vanished completely. There is no seam, no crack, no line of separation. The rusty, metallic material and the grainy, sedimentary stone are fused in a single, continuous mass. It looks less like an object placed into a hole and more like a fossil, as if the pipe itself was a kind of metallic bone around which the stone slowly formed, layer by microscopic layer, over eons. This fusion is the ultimate challenge. It suggests the pipe was present during the lithification process, when loose, wet sand was compressed and cemented into solid rock under immense pressure over millions of years. For that to be true, the pipe had to be sitting there, waiting, for an inconceivable span of time before human civilization even began. The chronological nightmare deepens with pipe number 17. This conduit was found running through a clearly stratified layer of rock. Stratification is the layering of sedimentary rock, like the pages of a book, where each distinct layer represents a different period in Earth's history, sometimes separated by tens or hundreds of thousands of years. Pipe 17 does not sit neatly in one layer, it cuts through several of them. Imagine a metal rod driven straight through a stack of newspapers, piercing the front page from Monday, Wednesday, and Friday all at once. Geologically, this is nonsensical for a human-made object. If ancient builders had dug a trench to lay this pipe, they would have cut through those layers, disturbing the sequence, and then backfilled it. The pipe would be surrounded by a jumble of mixed debris from all the layers it disturbed, but that is not what we see. the pipe appears integrated, as if it was laid down at the same time as the earliest layer it touches, and then the subsequent layers formed above and around it over the next several 100,000 years. This creates a temporal absurdity. The pipe seems to exist across multiple geological ages simultaneously, a silent thread stitched through deep time itself. Faced with this, skeptics have proposed a natural explanation, one that seems elegant at first glance. Perhaps the pipes are not artifacts at all, but fulgurites. A fulgurite is a fascinating natural formation, a glassy tube created when a powerful lightning bolt strikes dry sand or soil. The immense instantaneous heat, which can exceed 30,000 degrees Fahrenheit, fuses the sand into a hollow, branching structure that often follows the path of the electrical discharge. On the surface, the idea has merit. Both are tubular, both are found in rock, and both involve the fusion of silica. This is the argument centered on pipe number 18, which some point to as a potential candidate. But the comparison collapses under closer scrutiny. First, the composition. A true fulgurite is almost pure glass, silicon dioxide. The Baigong pipes are complex alloys with significant iron, calcium, and unknown elements, a recipe far removed from simple fused sand. Second, the shape. Fulgurites are chaotic. They twist, branch, taper, and shatter in unpredictable ways, mirroring the chaotic path of lightning. The Baigong pipes show geometric precision, uniform wall thickness, perfect circles, and mechanical joints, features utterly alien to the random violence of an electrical storm. Third, and most damning, is scale and location. Fulgurites are typically small, fragile, and found near the surface. They do not form massive, 40-centimeter wide, perfectly vertical conduits that plunge dozens of meters into bedrock, nor do they appear in coordinated networks with matching pieces scattered over a square mile. To attribute the Baigong system to lightning would require not one miraculous strike, but a sustained, intelligent storm with a master plan, forging not glass, but sophisticated metal ceramic composites. The fulgurite theory, while scientifically valid for other phenomena, simply cannot contain the overwhelming evidence of design and material complexity found on that mountainside. It is a good answer, but to the wrong question, leaving the core paradox of the 5-million-year-old pipes untouched and throbbing with mystery. The mystery of Mount Baigong does not confine itself to a single cave or shoreline. Several kilometers from the main site, in an even more remote and rugged area, shepherds following their flocks made another staggering discovery. This is pipe number 19, and it redefines the scale of this enigma. It is not a single tube, but a sprawling, subterranean network. Exposed by erosion on the side of a ridge, it looks less like plumbing and more like the petrified roots of a colossal metal tree. Thick central trunks, each as wide as a person's torso, split again and again into smaller branches, which then subdivide into still finer tubes. This is not a simple line, it is a distributive system, a web of conduits designed to carry something from a central source out to countless endpoints, or perhaps to gather something from a wide area back to a central point. The sight of it, this metallic vascular system woven into the mountain's flesh, immediately suggests a purpose of immense complexity. This was not a few pipes for a single task. This was the infrastructure for a process, one that required delivery or collection on a massive, integrated scale. Mapping this hidden web led to the discovery of pipe number 20. Using ground-penetrating radar to peer into the rock where the visible fragments vanished, researchers traced a single, straight conduit of astonishing length. The signal followed it, unwavering, for over 100 meters straight into the heart of the mountain before the equipment could no longer track its path. To put that in perspective, 100 meters is the length of a soccer field. This was a dedicated main line, an artery or a primary feeder pipe of monumental scale and precision. Its straightness is as telling as its length. In nature, nothing runs that straight for that distance underground. This was an engineered path of least resistance, a direct route for whatever flowed within it, whether that was liquid, gas, energy, or something we cannot yet conceive. The fact that it disappears into the mountain's core hints at a source or a destination, buried so deep that we may never physically reach it. This pipe is a road leading to a door we cannot find, pointing toward a hidden chamber or reservoir that has been sealed by geology for millions of years. Scattered around the area of this vast network are the most delicate pieces of the puzzle, pipe number 21. These are not massive trunks or long arteries, but small, capillary-like tubes. Some are no wider than a drinking straw, others are even finer. They are found in clusters, often connecting to the ends of the smaller branches from the main network. Their presence completes a hauntingly familiar picture. Think of the human circulatory system, where the aorta branches into arteries, which branch into arterioles, finally reaching the tiny capillaries that directly service individual cells. Or think of an industrial cooling system for a massive engine, where a main coolant line feeds into a radiator's manifold, which then splits into hundreds of thin fins to maximize surface area and heat dissipation. These capillary pipes suggest exactly that kind of functional necessity, a need for vast surface area or precise, localized delivery. This transforms the entire ridge from a site with pipes into something far more provocative, the fossilized remains of a gigantic machine. The image it creates is staggering, an ancient mountain-sized apparatus with a central power source, main feeder lines, distributive networks, and fine-tuned endpoints. Was this a geothermal energy harvester tapping the Earth's heat, a colossal chemical processing plant refining some unknown material, or perhaps, as the most speculative theories suggest, the cooling ribs of a buried reactor or engine, now silent and stony? The capillaries of Pipe 21 are the finest brushstrokes in a painting too large to see, hinting at a technological purpose so grand and so alien that its true function may forever lie just beyond our understanding. The sheer scale of the network inevitably leads to a question of cosmic proportions. Could these silent conduits have been listening to the stars? This is the celestial alignment hypothesis, a theory that suggests the pipes were not just industrial but astronomical, a machine built to commune with the heavens. The key piece of evidence for this idea is pipe number 22. Unlike the chaotic sprawl of the distributive network, this particular conduit has a unique and deliberate orientation. When researchers plotted its angle against the ancient sky, using astronomical software to rewind the clock, they found something startling. Several thousand years ago, though still millions of years after the rock formed, this pipe pointed directly at the celestial North Pole. But it was not aimed at Polaris, our current North Star. Instead, its alignment was perfect for a different guide, the star Thuban in the constellation Draco, which held the position of pole star around 3000 B. See, this is a profound temporal disconnect. The pipe, fused in 5 million-year-old rock, aligns with a star configuration from a mere 5,000 years ago. Proponents argue this cannot be coincidence, that it suggests the site was reused or recognized by a much later culture who perhaps built upon, or were inspired by, the existing structures. They envision the cave as an ancient observatory, with Pipe 22 acting as a permanent sighting tube, a stone and metal telescope frozen in alignment to track the slow, majestic wobble of Earth's axis across the millennia. It is a romantic and powerful image, the mountain itself as a timeless clock, its metal eye forever fixed on the turning vault of night. Yet if one axis points to the sky, others seem to delve into the Earth's own fiery heart. This brings us to pipe number 23 and the theory of geothermal harnessing. This is not a single pipe, but a dense cluster found in a lower section of the complex, an area where the ground itself has a slightly warmer temperature gradient compared to the surrounding rock. The hypothesis here is practical and physical. These pipes, according to some researchers, were positioned as a system to channel naturally heated water or steam from deep thermal springs within the mountain. Imagine the setup, a network of intake pipes tapping into subterranean reservoirs heated by the Earth's mantle. The hot water or steam would rise through these conduits, perhaps to be used for heating, for industrial processes requiring constant heat, or even to drive primitive turbines for mechanical power. The glassy, vitrified linings we discussed earlier would make perfect sense in this context, as they would protect the metal from long-term corrosion by mineral-rich hot water. This theory paints the site as a grand utility plant, an ancient feat of engineering that turned the mountain's own geothermal energy into a usable resource. It is a compelling vision of a lost civilization that mastered its environment not with magic, but with a profound understanding of geology and thermodynamics, building an infrastructure that literally plugged into the planet. The most expansive theory, however, transcends both the astronomical and the geothermal, proposing a purpose that is almost alchemical in nature. This is the idea embodied by the entire layout, what we might call pipe number 24, the landscape scale antenna. Proponents of this view do not see individual tubes but a single, gigantic device. They propose that the entire network, from the deepest trunk lines to the finest surface capillaries, was designed as a resonator or antenna. Its purpose, to collect and concentrate subtle energies, either from the cosmos above or from the Earth itself, a concept often referred to as cosmic or telluric energy. This is not mainstream science, but it finds echoes in fringe archaeology worldwide, in theories about the placement of pyramids, stone circles, and sacred mounds on supposed ley lines or Earth energy grids. At Mount Baigong, the argument suggests the specific placement and geometry of the pipes, their metallic composition, and their integration with the unique mineralogy of the mountain turned the entire landform into a kind of battery or capacitor. The different pipe sizes and the distributive network could be seen as a system for tuning and directing this captured energy, much like a modern radio antenna uses elements of specific lengths to resonate with particular frequencies. Was this forgotten technology a method for healing, for amplifying agricultural fertility, or for powering devices we can no longer recognize? The theory is speculative, bordering on the mystical, but it speaks to the overwhelming impression the site creates, that of a designed system interacting intentionally with forces both seen and unseen, a machine whose operating manual was written in a language lost to time. The most grounded and practical explanation for the pipes may be the simplest one: water. In a region as arid as the Qinghai highlands, water is life, and controlling it is the foundation of any civilization. This leads us to the aquatic system theory, which sees the network not as a power plant or an antenna, but as a monumental feat of ancient hydraulic engineering. The strongest piece of evidence for this is pipe number 25. This is the conduit we glimpsed earlier, the one that emerges from the cave system and runs in a straight and deliberate path directly toward the shores of Toson Lake. Its trajectory is unmistakable. It does not meander, it aims. This pipe has the clear, functional logic of a pipeline, either drawing the lake's saltwater into the mountain complex for some unknown purpose, or perhaps carrying something from the mountain out into the lake. It creates a tangible link between the mysterious interior installation and the most significant body of water for miles around, framing the entire system as something that interacted directly with this ancient saline sea. Within another section of the network, we find pipe number 26, which offers a microscopic clue to its history. When a segment was carefully cut open, researchers discovered something telling inside, a distinct, layered sediment deposit lining the interior wall. This was not a random accumulation of dirt, it was a stratified build-up like the rings inside an old water pipe. This kind of deposit only forms one way, from water or another fluid, flowing through the tube for a very, very long time. The minerals in the water slowly precipitate out, layer upon thin layer, creating a record of continuous use. It is the geological equivalent of scale in a kettle, but on a timescale of centuries or more. This sediment is a silent witness testifying that whatever these pipes were, they were not static monuments, they were working conduits actively carrying a flow for generations. This evidence builds a compelling picture of an ancient aqueduct or irrigation network. Imagine a lost settlement, perhaps in a now vanished valley, that used this sophisticated metal pipeline to draw fresh water from springs deep within Mount Baigong, or to manage the brackish water of Toson Lake for agriculture or industry. In an arid landscape, such a system would be the difference between survival and oblivion, a technological marvel that allowed a community to flourish where none should. Yet, this practical theory immediately stumbles against a glaring contradiction. If the goal was simply to move water, why use such an astronomically complex and difficult material? Every other ancient civilization on Earth, when building aqueducts, used what was readily available and effective: carved stone channels, baked clay pipes, or hollowed-out logs. The Romans built their legendary aqueducts from stone and concrete. Ancient Chinese engineers used bamboo and ceramic. These materials work perfectly well and would have been infinitely easier to produce than forging and installing miles of iron silica composite piping fused into bedrock. The use of such a durable, high-tech material suggests the fluid being moved was not ordinary water. Perhaps it was superheated geothermal water which would erode clay and crack stone. Maybe it was a highly corrosive mineral brine or a chemical slurry involved in some form of refining process. Or could it have been something under immense pressure requiring the strength of metal? The very existence of these pipes argues against a mundane purpose. Their advanced composition is a solution to a problem far more extreme than simple irrigation. The aquatic theory answers the how but deepens the mystery of the why, leaving us to wonder what formidable substance required a mountain of metal to contain its flow. The story of these pipes remained a local legend until the modern era. Their journey into global mystery began in the late 1990s when word reached a curious journalist named Liu Shaolin. This brings us to pipe number 29, which is less a physical object and more a symbol of modern intrigue. Liu Shaolin became the public face of the Baigong mystery. He visited the remote site, photographed the strange conduits, and wrote articles that crackled with a sense of profound discovery. His reports described not just pipes, but what he believed were the foundations of ancient walls and triangular structures around the cave, painting a picture of a vast, ruined complex. Through his work, the world outside Qinghai province learned of the pipes. Liu's advocacy was a double-edged sword. He garnered a passionate following among alternative history enthusiasts who saw him as a brave truth-teller challenging a rigid academic establishment. Yet from the mainstream scientific community, he faced immediate and often harsh ridicule. Geologists and archaeologists dismissed his claims as pseudoscience, arguing he was misinterpreting natural formations. They pointed out correctly that he was not a trained geologist. The debate became polarized, a shouting match between those who saw a revolutionary discovery and those who saw a fanciful mistake. Liu Shaolin's role was crucial. He turned a quiet geological oddity into an international archaeological controversy, ensuring the pipes could never be simply forgotten. Amid this growing controversy, a rare opportunity for hard data emerged. This centers on pipe number 28. In 2002, a team from a nearby state-owned smelter, the Lanzhou branch of the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, visited Mount Baigong. They were not myth hunters, they were metallurgists. They took samples from several pipes for proper laboratory analysis. The initial fragmentary results that leaked out were electrifying. They reportedly confirmed the pipe's bizarre composition, the high iron content mixed with silicon dioxide and calcium oxide, and suggested a manufacturing date of around 150,000 years ago based on the degree of erosion. While still wildly anachronistic, this date was far more recent than the 5-million-year-old bedrock, offering a possible, if still impossible, human timeline. But then, silence. The full, detailed report from this official investigation was never published. No peer-reviewed paper appeared in a scientific journal. The data vanished into institutional archives. This void bred the darkest theory of all, a cover-up. Conspiracy-minded researchers argued the Chinese government had discovered something so world-changing, so disruptive to the standard historical narrative that they chose to bury the evidence. The more mundane and likely explanation is simply bureaucratic inertia, a lack of further funding, or the team's conclusion that the pipes were natural curiosities not worth a major publication. Yet, the absence of that definitive report became a mystery in itself, a black hole of information that allowed every theory, from the ancient astronaut to the lost civilization, to flourish unchecked. All of which leads us to the present and pipe number 30. This is not a pipe you can hold, but the current state of the entire site. Mount Baigong is not a major tourist destination. There are no visitor centers, no guided tours, no souvenir stalls. Reaching it requires a difficult journey over rough, unpaved roads into a stark and lonely landscape. The site itself remains almost completely unexcavated. The pipes protrude from the rock, the cave sits open, but no large-scale archaeological dig has ever been authorized to peel back the layers and see what, if anything, connects them all underground. This preservation through neglect is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it has protected the site from looters and the damage of mass tourism, leaving the evidence untouched for future generations with better technology. On the other hand, it has permanently hindered definitive research. Without systematic excavation, core drilling, and extensive ground surveys, we are left only with the surface anomalies, the tantalizing tips of a potential iceberg. The mystery is preserved, but so is our ignorance. The pipes of Baigong stand as they have for millennia, silent and stubborn, their purpose buried not just in rock, but in the unresolved conflict between legend and science, between what we think we know about our past and the unsettling evidence that suggests we might know very little at all. The year was 1996, and the goal was dinosaurs. A team of scientists from the Chinese Academy of Sciences had journeyed to the desolate reaches of Qinghai, a landscape more Martian than earthly, with its rust-red hills and skies of relentless blue. They were not seeking mysteries of metal, but the bones of ancient beasts, scanning the eroded gullies for fragments of a prehistoric world. Their local guide through this wilderness was a herdsman named Baigong, a man who knew the silence of the mountains and the stories they held. It was Baigong who, perhaps noticing their scientific curiosity, made a decision. The dinosaur hunt could wait. There was something else they needed to see, something much stranger than old bones. He led them away from the fossil beds up the steep, crumbling slopes of Mount Baigong to a place where the wind whistled with a different kind of history. The climb was arduous, the air thin, and the destination offered no grand ruins, only a dark opening in the mountainside framed by those three perfect triangular holes. Stepping inside the cool, shadowed cave, the scientists' flashlights swept across the floor. Their training prepared them for geology, for the slow processes of sedimentation and erosion. It did not prepare them for pipe number 1. There it was, a colossal rust-colored tube wider than a man's thigh, emerging from the solid rock floor as if it had grown there. In that first moment of stunned silence, a cascade of impossible questions would have flooded their minds. The initial assumption, the most logical one, was that they were looking at a geological oddity. Perhaps these were fossilized tree roots mineralized over eons into tubes of ironstone. But the shape was too perfect, the circle too precise. Fossil roots twist, taper, and branch chaotically. They do not form straight, hollow cylinders with uniform walls. The next thought was more modern but no less troubling. Could this be industrial waste? Had some forgotten mining operation from the last century dumped slag or piping here? That idea dissolved just as quickly. They were in one of the most remote regions of China, miles from any road or rail line, at an altitude that made heavy industrial activity a logistical nightmare. And the pipe was not dumped, it was fused, seamlessly embedded into bedrock that looked ancient beyond measure. The scientists were caught between worlds, holding tools meant to decipher the deep past while staring at an artifact that refused to fit any timeline. They collected samples of the strange metal, their dinosaur fossils forgotten. The discovery was so incongruous, so utterly out of place, that they reportedly did not even file an official report for some time, unsure of what exactly they had found. In the years that followed, the site took its name from the man who first revealed its secret to the outside world. They became known as the Baigong Pipes, a direct translation meaning White Palace Pipes, derived from the name of the mountain and a tribute to the guide Bayu. It is a poetic name for a profoundly puzzling place, a white palace not of marble but of mystery hidden in a palace of stone. The scene of that discovery is a character in itself. The Qinghai Tibet Plateau is a rooftop of the world, a high-altitude desert where the horizon stretches to infinity and human presence feels like a fleeting whisper. The sheer desolation of the setting makes the pipes not just mysterious but haunting. This is not a fertile valley where a civilization would naturally flourish, nor is it a strategic mountain pass. It is a hard, lonely, and difficult place. That such a complex, engineered system would exist here of all places suggests a purpose as severe as the landscape itself. It forces a question that has echoed ever since that day in 1996. What could possibly have been so important, so necessary, that it required building a permanent, monumental installation in one of the most inhospitable corners of the planet? The answer, if there is one, remains locked within the mountain and within the rusted metal that first confused a team of scientists who went looking for dinosaurs and found a riddle for the ages. The geological establishment, when confronted with such anomalies, does not remain silent for long. The official scientific counter-argument arrived, crisp and confident, under the banner of a single, elegant word: fulgurate. This is the mainstream explanation, a natural phenomenon powerful enough to create what looks like artifice. The process is both violent and beautiful. When a bolt of lightning carrying hundreds of millions of volts strikes dry, sandy soil, it does not just leave a scorch mark. The instantaneous, unimaginable heat, which can surpass 30,000 degrees Fahrenheit, does something extraordinary. It vaporizes the sand along its path in a microsecond, then fuses the surrounding grains into a brittle, glassy crust. What remains is a hollow, branching tube, a fossilized snapshot of the lightning's journey through the earth. These are fulgurites, nature's own pipes, and at first glance the comparison seems compelling. Both are tubular, both are found in the ground, both involve the fusion of silica, the primary component of sand. Some proponents point to specific Baigong formations like the smaller, more chaotic fragments, and declare the case closed, a simple case of mistaken identity with a spectacular natural event. The theory is clean. It requires no lost civilizations or forgotten technologies, just the raw, awesome power of our planet's weather repeated across millennia. But a closer look, one that moves past a first glance and into the granular details, reveals a theory that cannot bear the weight of the evidence. Let us start with the most fundamental difference: the substance itself. A true fulgurate is essentially a tube of glass. Its composition is overwhelmingly silicon dioxide, the same as quartz or window glass because it is made from fused sand. The Baigong pipes, as laboratory analysis confirmed, are something else entirely. They are a complex alloy. Iron is their primary metallic component, making up over 30% of the material, blended with significant amounts of that same silicon dioxide and calcium oxide. This is not a simple fused glass. It is a manufactured composite, a deliberate recipe that combines metallic and ceramic elements. It is the difference between finding a piece of obsidian, a natural volcanic glass, and finding a piece of stainless steel, a human-engineered alloy. The material of the pipes alone places them in a category fulgurites cannot enter. Then we must consider the form. Lightning is chaos incarnate. It zigs, it zags, it forks unpredictably. Consequently, fulgurites mirror that chaos. They are twisted, sinuous, and fragile. Their walls are paper-thin and wildly uneven, thick in one spot and vanishingly thin in another. They taper, they branch erratically, and they almost always shatter when you try to remove them from the ground. Now, look at the key Baigong pipes. We see 40-centimeter wide vertical conduits with near-perfect circular cross-sections. We see straight horizontal runs that maintain a uniform diameter for meters. We see joint pieces with precise angles and evidence of mechanical threading. We see fragments with walls of consistent thickness like industrial piping. This is not the signature of chaotic, instantaneous violence. This is the signature of design, of calibration, of intent. It is the difference between a frozen lightning bolt and a machined component. Scale and organization deliver the final, decisive blow against the fulgurate theory. A fulgurate is a solitary, localized event. You might find a cluster where multiple strikes hit the same area, but they do not coordinate. The Baigong system presents a coordinated network. There is the main vertical pipe in the cave. There are the horizontal lines running toward the lake. There is the sprawling, root-like distributive system kilometers away with main trunks, branches, and capillary-like tubes. This is not a random scattering of lightning strikes. It is the layout of a circuit, a vascular system, or a plumbing schematic. The sheer size of the individual pipes is also a problem. The massive vertical stumps are orders of magnitude larger in diameter than any known fulgurate, which are typically the width of a finger or, at their very largest, perhaps a forearm. Furthermore, fulgurites form in loose, granular material like sand or soil, where the lightning can instantly vaporize a path. The Baigong pipes are encased in solid sedimentary rock, sandstone that took millions of years to compress and cement. A lightning bolt cannot strike solid rock and create a hollow, fused tube within it. The physics simply do not work that way. The fulgurate explanation, while scientifically sound in its own domain, is like trying to use a key for a modern car lock on a medieval iron chest. It is the wrong tool for a lock that is far older and far more complex than it appears. So the central dilemma remains: how old are these things really? The answer depends entirely on what you choose to date. The most solid scientific number we have is the age of the sandstone that encases the pipes, and that date comes from established geological mapping. The sedimentary layers of Mount Baigong were formed during the Miocene epoch, a period that places the rock's formation firmly between 5 and 6 million years ago. This is not a guess from the pipes themselves. It is the bedrock's own biography, written in its stratification and mineral composition. This date is the anchor of the entire mystery, because if the pipes are truly part of that rock, then they share that impossible age. But here is where the scientific method hits a wall. You cannot directly radiometrically date a metal object like these pipes in the same way you date rock. Radiometric dating works by measuring the decay of specific radioactive isotopes locked inside crystalline minerals when they form. Volcanic rock, for instance, contains minerals that crystallize from molten lava, trapping those isotopes like a stopwatch set to 0. Sedimentary rock is trickier, but you can date tiny volcanic ash layers within it, or certain minerals that formed during its creation. Metal, however, is different. When you smelt iron ore, you are not creating new radioactive minerals with a clean isotopic clock. You are purifying and rearranging existing elements. The iron in the pipe could be 1 billion years old, having formed in a star long before Earth existed, then sat in an ore deposit for eons before being smelted yesterday. Dating the metal itself tells you the age of the source material, not the moment it was forged into a pipe. This creates a frustrating loophole. The rock is 5 million years old. The metal inside it could be from any time, so how do you bridge that gap? One approach is to look for something organic that became trapped with the pipe. If, for example, you could find a piece of charcoal or ancient plant material that was sealed in the rust as it first formed, you could carbon date that organic sample. That date would tell you when the pipe was exposed to the air and began to corrode, giving you a minimum age for its creation. There have been whispers of such attempts, reports of organic traces found in the oxidized crust of the pipes, but to date, no conclusive, peer-reviewed study with hard dates has ever been published in a mainstream scientific journal. This absence of a definitive number is what keeps the age question wide open, a void filled with speculation. Skeptics of an artificial origin point to a different kind of natural formation altogether: iron oxide concretions. These are fascinating geological oddities that can, in rare cases, form pipe-like shapes. They occur when mineral-rich water percolates through porous rock like sandstone. Dissolved iron and oxygen in the water react, precipitating out as rust, which slowly accumulates around a central nucleus, like a grain of sand or a fossil. Over centuries, it can build a solid nodule or even a tube of iron oxide. The famous Moeraki boulders of New Zealand are giant examples of this process. Could the Baigong Pipes be immense, hyper-developed iron concretions? The comparison is tempting but ultimately unsatisfying. Iron oxide concretions are almost always spherical or lumpy, like potatoes made of stone. When they do form elongated shapes, they are irregular, tapering, and solid, not hollow. Their internal structure is concentric, like an onion, reflecting the slow, outward growth from a center point. The Baigong Pipes defy this model. Their hollow centers, uniform wall thickness, perfect circularity, and mechanical joint pieces speak of a template, not of slow, random accretion. A concretion does not decide to have a 40-centimeter uniform diameter for meters on end, nor does it create threaded connectors. The formation process is simply too chaotic and too slow to account for such precision and complexity. So we are left in a dating limbo. The host rock is impossibly ancient. The pipes themselves resist direct dating. The most promising clues, like trapped organics, remain unpublished and unverified. And the best natural analogies fail to match the evidence on the ground. This dilemma is not a dead end. It is the very core of the mystery. It forces us to hold two contradictory ideas in our minds at once: the solid fact of 5-million-year-old stone, and the silent, stubborn presence of something that looks for all the world like a manufactured system within it. Until someone can bring a piece of a Baigong pipe to a lab and return with a peer-reviewed date stamped on a scientific paper, the question of age will remain the first and greatest lock on this mystery. The silence of the pipes has not stopped humanity from trying to give them a voice. In the absence of a satisfying earthly explanation, one theory has risen to dominate the public imagination: the idea that we are not looking at human handiwork at all. This is the ancient astronaut hypothesis, the claim that the Baigong Pipes are physical evidence of extraterrestrial visitation in Earth's deep past. Proponents of this view point to the very same facts that baffle geologists as their most compelling proof. The advanced metallurgy, that complex iron-silica composite, is seen not as a lost human technology, but as a material beyond our ancestors' capabilities, perhaps a specialized alloy for a starship systems or a planetary outpost. The remote, inhospitable location of Mount Baigong makes perfect sense from this perspective. An ideal, secluded site for a covert operation or a base far from prying eyes of any primitive human population. Most powerfully, the impossible age of the surrounding rock is the ultimate clincher. If the pipes are 5 million years old and humans were not building such things, then the logical conclusion, they argue, is that someone else was. The theory often blends with another, that of a lost advanced human civilization like Atlantis or Lemuria. a culture that achieved technological marvels before being wiped out by a cataclysm, leaving only enigmatic fragments like these pipes behind. For many, this narrative is thrilling and complete, answering the who with a dramatic, cosmic flourish. Yet, for every voice championing this idea, there is a chorus of scientific skepticism that dismisses it as pure pseudo-archaeology. The skeptical argument is built on a foundational principle of scientific reasoning, Occam's razor. This principle suggests that among competing hypotheses, the one with the fewest assumptions should be selected. From this vantage point, the ancient astronaut theory is a mansion built on assumptions. It assumes the existence of faster-than-light travel or incredibly long-lived extraterrestrial civilizations. It assumes these beings visited Earth and engaged in mining or construction. It assumes they left behind obvious, clumsy artifacts like pipes instead of technology indistinguishable from magic. The skeptic asks a simple, cutting question: is it really more likely that aliens crossed the vastness of space to install plumbing in a Chinese mountain than that we are still misunderstanding a rare but natural geological process? They argue that leaping to an extraterrestrial conclusion is not science, but a surrender of curiosity, a way to bypass the hard, meticulous work of geological analysis in favor of a sensational story. This academic dismissal, however, has done little to stem the theory's popularity, largely due to its powerful amplification in modern media. The cultural engine behind this idea is undeniable, fueled in large part by television series like Ancient Aliens. Such programs have taken mysteries like the Baigong Pipes and woven them into a grand, interconnected tapestry of global anomalies, presenting the ancient astronaut hypothesis as a compelling alternative history. The impact of this is double-edged. On one hand, it has popularized these obscure enigmas, bringing the Baigong mystery to millions of viewers who would never read a geological survey. It sparks wonder and questions the official narratives, which can be a healthy challenge to intellectual stagnation. On the other hand, critics contend it has trivialized genuine archaeological and geological inquiry. By framing every unexplained artifact as potential proof of aliens, it can discourage the public from appreciating the nuanced, often slower-moving work of real science. It creates a dynamic where mystery is valued more than solution, and where the phrase "experts can't explain it" is used not as a starting point for research, but as a triumphant conclusion for fringe ideas. The Baigong Pipes in this media landscape are no longer just a puzzling sight in Qinghai. They are a piece of evidence in a televised trial about humanity's past, a role that often overshadows the quiet, stubborn reality of the pipes themselves, still sitting in their mountain, indifferent to the theories they inspire. Long before scientists arrived with their instruments, this landscape held its secrets in stories. For generations, the Tibetan and Mongol herders who roam the high plains of Qinghai have passed down tales of the mountains, stories that speak of more than just wind and stone. Among these oral histories are curious references to what some elders call the iron veins of the earth. These are not described as natural ore deposits, but as deliberate structures, lines of metal laid down by powerful beings in a time before memory. Some legends tell of the Zhangzhung, a mythical kingdom of great antiquity said to have possessed profound knowledge. Others speak more directly of celestial visitors, gods or sky people who descended long ago and forged great works within the living rock, leaving behind hollow, metallic bones as proof of their passage. The very name given to the site, Baigong, translates to White Palace. While officially linked to the mountain's name and the herdsman Bayou, the term resonates with local folklore. A palace suggests a place of importance, a dwelling or a hall, and white often carries connotations of the sacred or the celestial in regional traditions. It is as if the name itself encodes a whisper, a cultural memory that this was once a special, constructed place, not merely a random cave. The persistence of these myths is haunting. Could they be the fragmented, poetic remnants of a real event? Imagine a nomadic culture encountering the ruins of an advanced installation millennia after its builders vanished. The smooth, hollow tubes fused into stone would defy their understanding of the world. Without a concept of industry or archaeology, the only framework to explain such a wonder would be the mythological, attributing it to gods, giants, or a lost golden age. The stories of metal veins and sky-born builders could be a distorted echo, a cultural fossil preserving the shock of that ancient discovery across hundreds of generations. This mythological layer stands in stark contrast to the official historical and archaeological record of the region. For as far back as historians can trace, the Qinghai highlands have been home to nomadic pastoralists, tribes moving with the seasons, their lives built around herds of yak and sheep. Their material culture is one of portable goods, leather, felt, wool, and later, simple bronzes for ornaments and weaponry. There is no evidence, no pottery shards, no foundation stones, no burial mounds that suggest a large-scale, sedentary civilization capable of advanced metallurgy ever existed here, let alone one that could produce the complex composites seen in the pipes. The historical record shows a continuous thread of nomadic life, not a sudden, catastrophic disappearance of a technological society. This creates a profound disconnect. On one side, we have geology and material science pointing to an impossible, sophisticated artifact. On another, we have local folklore that seems to remember something extraordinary. And in the middle, we have a historical record that is completely, utterly silent. The myths fill a void that history cannot, but they do so with the language of dreams, leaving us to wonder if they are the faded signature of a truth too old for history books to hold. The Baigong Pipes are not alone in their defiance of history. Around the world, scattered like forgotten pieces from a different puzzle, lie other objects that simply do not fit the timeline. These are often called out-of-place artifacts or uparts, and each one tells its own small story of anachronism. Take the Antikythera mechanism, recovered from a 2,000-year-old shipwreck off the coast of Greece. It is a complex bronze gear system of staggering intricacy, a device that could predict astronomical positions and eclipses. For centuries, nothing of comparable mechanical sophistication would appear again in the historical record. It is a singular genius, a glimpse of a technological peak that was then lost, a clockwork island in a sea of simpler technology. Then there is the Baghdad battery, a simple clay jar from ancient Mesopotamia containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod. When filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar, it can produce a small electric charge. Was it a primitive battery for electroplating, or merely a storage vessel for sacred scrolls? The evidence is ambiguous, a tantalizing maybe that hints at a forgotten application of a basic principle. And the Koso artifact, a spark plug found encased in a geode claimed to be 500,000 years old, though its origins are heavily disputed and likely a modern object embedded in a concretion. These are the classic uparts, individual curiosities that spark debate because they feel too advanced, too precise, or simply too out of context for their era. They are the mysterious single notes in the symphony of history. What makes Baigong different is that it is not a single note, it is the entire score. The Antikythera mechanism is one device, the Baghdad battery is one jar. The Baigong Pipes are 30 interconnected components, a sprawling network of conduits fused into a mountain. Their mystery is not just about their advanced material or their impossible age, it is about their sheer physical presence and coordination. This is not a lost gadget, it is lost infrastructure. The other uparts challenge our understanding of a specific technology or idea at a point in time. The Baigong Pipes challenge our understanding of time itself by presenting a system that appears to have been built before time, as we measure human history even began. Their integration with the geology is the ultimate differentiator. A mechanism can be buried in a shipwreck, a jar can be placed in a tomb. but you cannot bury a pipe inside 5 million-year-old solid sandstone. You cannot place it there. The mountain itself is the casing, the proof, and the primary witness. This scale transforms the mystery from an archaeological puzzle into a geological one, from a question of who made it to a question of when it could possibly have been made. While other parts suggest a brilliant inventor or a lucky discovery, Baigong suggests a civilization or something else entirely that operated on a scale and duration we struggle to comprehend. It is the difference between finding a single, impossibly modern coin in an ancient field and finding the rusted, sprawling foundation of an entire factory complex beneath that field, a factory that the geological record says was there long before the field existed. That is the unique, haunting weight of the Baigong enigma. The true scale of the Baigong network only becomes clear when we look beneath the surface. In recent years, small teams equipped with modern sensing technology have ventured to the remote site, aiming to map what the eye cannot see. Their tools are not shovels, but ground-penetrating radar and magnetometers, devices that listen to the whispers of the underground without disturbing a single stone. What they have recorded is a ghostly blueprint, a hidden architecture that dwarfs the visible fragments. Ground-penetrating radar works by sending pulses of energy into the earth and measuring the echoes that bounce back. Different materials, and especially hollow spaces, return distinct signatures. When these radar rays were slowly moved across the rocky terrain around the known pipes, the screens did not show solid, uniform bedrock. Instead, they lit up with linear anomalies, straight and branching lines that ran for dozens of meters in every direction. These radar ghosts suggest the pipes are not isolated oddities, but the tips of a vast, submerged iceberg. The visible conduits in the cave and by the lake appear to connect to a sprawling gridwork buried deep within the mountain itself, a subterranean maze whose full extent remains uncharted. This is corroborated by magnetometer surveys. These instruments measure tiny variations in the Earth's magnetic field. Since the pipes contain a high percentage of iron, they create localized magnetic disturbances. The survey data paints a startling picture, clusters of magnetic anomalies that correspond perfectly with the radar lines, confirming they are metallic in nature. The pattern these anomalies create is not random. It shows junctions, right angles, and what appear to be central nodes, like the hub of a wheel with spokes radiating outward. This hidden geometry strongly implies design, a planned layout rather than a haphazard scattering of natural formations. The network suggested by these scans is far more extensive and far more organized than anyone standing on the surface could possibly guess. Another layer of intrigue comes from thermal imaging. During both day and night surveys, researchers have pointed thermal cameras at the areas where pipes are known to enter the ground. The principle is simple: different materials hold and release heat at different rates. A solid mass of rock will cool evenly as night falls, but a hollow metal pipe or a tunnel filled with air will show a different thermal signature. In several key locations, the thermal images revealed faint but consistent temperature differentials. Long, thin lines of slightly cooler or warmer temperature traced paths across the landscape, aligning with the radar and magnetic data. These thermal traces are like seeing the breath of the mountain, subtle exhalations that hint at hollow spaces, air pockets, or conduits made of a material that conducts heat differently than the surrounding sandstone. One particularly strong thermal anomaly was found near the main cave, a spot where the ground retains a subtle warmth compared to its surroundings even in the cold, high-altitude night. This could indicate a larger void beneath, perhaps a chamber, or it might point to a concentration of metallic material that absorbs solar heat all day and slowly releases it. While not definitive proof, these thermal whispers add another piece to the puzzle, suggesting the underground system is not just extensive, but structurally complex, with variations that could mean chambers, junctions, or changes in the buried material. Despite these tantalizing technological glimpses, the full truth remains locked under tons of rock. The greatest frustration for researchers is the complete absence of a large-scale, officially sanctioned archaeological excavation. Mount Baigong is a perfect storm of obstacles. Its remoteness makes mounting a major dig astronomically expensive and logistically daunting, requiring everything from heavy equipment to living quarters for a team to be transported over treacherous, unpaved roads. But the challenge is more than just geographical. There is a palpable sensitivity surrounding the findings. The pipes sit at the awkward intersection of geology, archaeology, and national history, a mystery that official institutions seem hesitant to fully embrace or aggressively debunk. Authorizing a major dig would mean committing to an answer, and right now there is no comfortable answer to be had. Would the results confirm a natural wonder, making the effort seem like a costly validation of the obvious? Or would they uncover something so inexplicable that it would force a painful and controversial rewriting of textbooks? This uncertainty breeds a bureaucratic inertia, a preference to let the mystery lie rather than risk what its solution might entail. Consequently, our knowledge is frustratingly skin-deep. We have scans that suggest a labyrinth and fragments that hint at advanced engineering, but the connective tissue, the physical proof of how these pieces fit together in the deep dark, remains buried. It is like trying to diagnose the inner workings of a vast, ancient machine by only studying a few rusted bolts that have fallen from its casing. We can infer the machine's size from the scatter of the bolts and guess at its power from their sophisticated alloy, but until we peel back the earth and see the gears themselves, its true purpose remains a shadow on a radar screen, a ghost in the mountain waiting for a light to be shone. Among the swirling theories, one document stands out as a potential key. In 2002, a team from the Liuwen smelter, reportedly in cooperation with the Lanzhou branch of the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, visited the site and conducted the most detailed analysis to date. Their findings, which have never been formally published in a peer-reviewed journal, have become legendary in the lore of Baigong. The report allegedly stated that the pipes were composed of about 30% iron oxide. That is a significant amount of metal, but it was the rest of the recipe that raised eyebrows. The analysis showed large amounts of silicon dioxide, which is essentially sand or quartz, and calcium oxide, a key component of limestone. This was not a pure metal, it was a composite, a deliberate-seeming blend of metallic and ceramic materials. Then came the most tantalizing line. Roughly 8% of the material, the report claimed, could not be identified. It was an unknown substance, a ghost in the chemical data. For believers, this 8% was the smoking gun, the signature of a lost technology or an alloy formula we no longer recognize. It suggested the pipes were made from something beyond our current catalog of ancient or even modern materials, a literal unknown variable in an already impossible equation. Yet the report's power is undermined by its own ambiguity. The full study was never released to the scientific community for scrutiny. The Liuwen smelter, an industrial facility, not a research institute, later seemed to distance itself from the sensational interpretations. Without the raw data, the methodology, or the context of peer review, the report exists in a frustrating limbo, a clue that cannot be fully verified or dismissed. So, if we take the reported composition at face value, what could it actually mean? One possibility is that we are looking at a primitive but sophisticated form of steel or cast iron with a high slag content. In early iron smelting, the process was messy. The furnace would produce a bloom, a spongy mass of iron mixed with siliceous slag, the waste product from the ore. If this bloom were worked and shaped while still hot, the slag would not be fully purged, becoming a permanent part of the final object. This could explain the high silicon and calcium content. It would be the fossilized slag from an ancient smelting process. The unknown 8% could then be trace elements from a local, unusual ore source. This theory frames the pipes as a human artifact, but one that required a massive, organized industry to produce on such a scale. Another, more geological interpretation is that the pipes are not manufactured at all, but an extreme form of corrosion product. Imagine water, rich in dissolved iron and silica, seeping through cracks in the sandstone for millions of years. Under the right chemical conditions, these minerals could precipitate out, slowly building up layer upon layer, eventually filling a crack or forming a tube around a central void. The different materials might settle in bands, creating the appearance of a composite. The unknown element could simply be a contaminant from the surrounding rock. This process, called diagenesis, can create startlingly artificial-looking formations, but it struggles to account for the pipe's geometric precision, hollow centers, and mechanical joints. The most provocative interpretation is that the composition is exactly what it appears to be, evidence of a material science we do not understand. The blend of iron, silicon, and calcium is reminiscent of some modern industrial slags or specialized refractories, materials designed to withstand extreme heat and corrosion. This was not an accident of primitive smelting or a quirk of nature, but a tailored recipe. The unknown 8% could be the active ingredient, a catalyst or reinforcing agent that gave the composite its specific properties, perhaps for high-temperature fluid transfer or structural stability in a volatile environment. The smelter report, shrouded in doubt and allure, ultimately deepens the mystery rather than solving it. It offers a tantalizing glimpse into a material that is both familiar and alien, a recipe that hints at purpose but refuses to name its chef. It is a scientific mayday signal broadcast from a mountain that we are still struggling to decode. Mountains are patient sculptors, and water is their most persistent tool. Over millions of years, the slow, relentless forces of erosion can carve landscapes into impossible shapes, from natural arches to towering spires. Could these same indifferent processes have created the illusion of the Baigong Pipes? To answer that, we must look closely at a specific and fascinating geological phenomenon known as pipe formation. This occurs when mineral-rich water, often carrying dissolved iron, seeps through cracks and pores in sedimentary rock like sandstone. As the water travels, it encounters changes in chemistry or pressure, causing the minerals to precipitate out, much like lime scale building up inside an old water pipe. Over centuries, this deposition can line the entire length of a crack, gradually filling it with a hard, tubular crust of iron oxide and other minerals. Eventually, the softer surrounding sandstone erodes away, leaving behind what looks like a solid metal pipe sticking out of the ground. These natural formations are not fantasy, they are documented around the world. In the American Southwest, you can find ironstone pipes and tubes formed this way. In the Egyptian desert, there are sandstone formations that eerily resemble manufactured conduits. These natural pipes share a few key traits. They often follow the path of least resistance through the rock, meaning they can be surprisingly straight, and they have a hollow core where the water once flowed. At first glance, the comparison seems perfect. A remote mountain, sandstone bedrock, iron-rich deposits, and tubular shapes, the recipe for a natural wonder. So let us apply this lens to Baigong. Imagine, over 5 million years, iron-laden groundwater percolating through a network of fine cracks in the mountain. Layer by microscopic layer, the iron oxide builds up, creating a hard, rust-colored lining. The surrounding rock weathers away, and what remains are 30 seemingly manufactured tubes. This is, without a doubt, the most scientifically plausible and elegant natural explanation on the table. It requires no lost civilizations, no alien visitors, just the immense creative power of deep time and basic chemistry. It could explain the fusion with the rock, the hollow centers, and even the straight lines as water follows fractures in the stone. Yet, when we hold this elegant theory up to the specific evidence at Baigong, cracks begin to appear in its surface. The first and greatest challenge is the material composition. Natural iron oxide pipes like those found elsewhere are just that, mostly iron oxide. They are rust. The analysis from Baigong, however, points to a complex composite, a deliberate seeming blend of iron with large amounts of silicon and calcium. This is not a simple mineral stain, it resembles an engineered material. Furthermore, natural pipe formations are almost never geometrically perfect. They taper, they have uneven walls, their diameters fluctuate. The Baigong pipes display a uniformity, a consistency of wall thickness and circular cross-section that screams of standardization, not the chaotic work of seeping water. Then there are the joint pieces with threaded markings and the capillary-like tubes in the distributive network. Could flowing groundwater really create a mechanical thread? Could it engineer a system with main trunks, branches, and fine capillaries that mimic an industrial cooling system or a vascular network? Nature is capable of breathtaking complexity, but this kind of functional, repetitive geometry is the hallmark of design, so we are left with a profound standoff. The natural pipe formation theory is beautiful in its simplicity, a perfect fit for the location and the age of the stone. But the physical details of the pipes themselves, their material recipe and their precise forms, push stubbornly against that simple story. It is as if the mountain used one language to write the setting and a completely different, more technical language to write the objects within it. This leaves us with a critical choice. Do we trust the overwhelming probability of a natural process, or do we trust the stubborn, anomalous details that refuse to conform? The road to Mount Baigong remains a journey for the determined, not the casual sightseer. At the end of a punishing dirt track, visitors find no grand entrance, no ticket booth, and no visitor center. Instead, the site is marked by a few weathered, hand-painted signs in Chinese, their messages simple and stark. They point the way to the cave, a silent sentinel against the vast, empty sky. Only a handful of the most curious travelers make this pilgrimage each year, drawn by online forums and the ghost of a mystery. They stand before the rusted pipes, touch the cold, fused metal, and feel the weight of that silent question hanging in the thin air. For them, the isolation is part of the experience, the feeling of discovering a secret the world has chosen to overlook. Yet this very obscurity is a double-edged sword. The lack of official guardianship leaves the pipes vulnerable. There are stories, whispers really, of small fragments being chipped away by visitors over the years, pocketed as souvenirs or sold to collectors of the strange. Each missing piece is a potential clue forever lost, a data point erased by the very human desire to possess a piece of the inexplicable. The risk of more significant vandalism or unchecked looting is a quiet, persistent threat, a race between time and the growing legend. This creates a difficult preservation paradox. On one hand, developing the site with proper infrastructure, guided tours, and a protective authority could safeguard the pipes for future study. It would bring funding not just for security, but potentially for the kind of large-scale, non-invasive archaeological survey that is so desperately needed. Controlled access could allow scientists to work while satisfying public curiosity, turning a cryptic footnote into a living museum of deep history. The global attention could unlock international research grants and collaborative efforts, applying the latest technology to finally map the subterranean network in full. Awareness, in this view, is the best guardian. On the other hand, development carries its own dangers. Paving roads, building staircases, and installing lighting would irrevocably alter the site's raw, otherworldly context. The profound sense of discovering something forgotten, of standing where the modern world feels irrelevant, would be sanitized. More visitors, even well-managed ones, mean more wear, more micro-erosion, more pressure on a fragile environment. There is also the fear that official development might come with an official narrative, one that could sideline the mystery in favor of a simpler, more tourist-friendly explanation, effectively burying the puzzle under concrete and brochure copy. The Chinese government's stance on Baigong has been one of masterful ambiguity. They have not cordoned it off as a forbidden zone, nor have they promoted it as a national wonder. No major state-sponsored documentaries champion it, and no school textbooks mention it. This cautious, hands-off approach is fascinating in itself. It suggests an institutional preference to let the mystery simmer on the fringes rather than bring it to a boil at the center of academic or public discourse. By neither fully endorsing the alien theories nor aggressively demolishing them with a definitive natural explanation, the state allows Baigong to exist as a curious cultural pressure valve. It satisfies a public appetite for wonder without forcing the establishment to reconcile an anomaly that challenges foundational historical timelines. This policy of benign neglect has, perhaps unintentionally, preserved the site's greatest asset, its enigmatic aura. The pipes are not yet a commodity, they remain a question. And in a world where so many mysteries are neatly solved for consumption, the enduring, unclaimed question of Baigong may be the most valuable artifact of all. The silence of the mountains is a geologist's first language, and to understand Baigong, we need to listen with their ears. I sat down with Dr. Lai Wen, a structural geologist with decades of experience mapping the Qinghai Tibet Plateau. Her office was cluttered with rock samples, not mystery magazines, and her perspective was one of deep time and patient process. She began not with the pipes, but with the mountain itself. Mount Baigong is not a random pile of stone, she explained. It is a storybook written in layers of sandstone and shale, and within that story there are chapters of incredible violence and heat. What you are calling pipes, she said, are most likely the remnants of igneous dikes. Picture this: millions of years ago, deep beneath the surface, the Earth's crust experienced a fracture. Into that crack, molten rock magma forced its way upward from the mantle. It did not erupt, it intruded, squeezing into the narrow fissure like liquid metal poured into a crack in a sidewalk. This magma was rich in iron and silica. As it slowly cooled and solidified underground, it formed a vertical sheet of extremely hard, resistant rock within the softer sandstone. That sheet is a dike. Now, fast forward to the present. Erosion has stripped away the overlying layers, exposing this ancient wound in the mountain. The surrounding sandstone, being softer, weathers away more quickly under wind, rain, and the freeze-thaw cycle. The harder, iron-rich dike erodes more slowly. Over millennia, this differential erosion leaves the dike standing proud, projecting from the rock face as a long, linear wall, or if the dike was narrow, a tube-like prominence. What looks like a manufactured pipe is simply the more durable heart of a geological vein, left behind after its softer surroundings wasted away. The material is key, Dr. Lai emphasized. You are not looking at smelted iron, you are looking at iron oxide, essentially rust, that was part of the original magma's mineral composition. This iron oxide acts as a powerful natural cement. As the dike weathered, it did not crumble into sand because the iron oxide bound the individual mineral grains together into a tough, rusty crust. That crust can appear remarkably solid and metallic to the untrained eye, but under a microscope, you would see it is not a homogeneous metal, but a cemented aggregate of tiny crystals. The hollow center, some report, could be explained by a process called spheroidal weathering. As water seeps into the rock, it weathers from the outside in, sometimes leaving a hardened shell around a core that eventually collapses or washes out, creating a tubular void. As for the seemingly precise shapes and joints, here she invoked a powerful principle of human psychology, pareidolia. It is our brain's irresistible tendency to find familiar patterns in random shapes. We see faces in clouds and animals in constellations. At Baigong, our pattern-seeking minds, primed by stories of ancient technology, look at a weathered, irregular geological formation and impose the template of a pipe, a joint, a flange. We focus on the sections that appear straight and circular, ignoring the many more that are twisted, broken, or amorphous. We connect disparate outcrops into an imagined network because our cognition is wired for narrative, not for reading 5 million years of chaotic erosion. The different types of pipes she suggested are just different expressions of the same basic process. A thick dike erodes into a large stump. A thin dike might form a narrower projection. A branching pattern could correspond to a complex fracture network that the magma filled. The material analysis showing silicon and calcium fits perfectly, as those are fundamental components of the igneous rock and the surrounding sandstone that has chemically interacted with it over eons. The unknown 8%, likely a mix of trace elements or a mineral phase not present in the standard comparison database, not evidence of alien alloy. Her conclusion was not dismissive but grounded in the scale of deep time. What feels like an impossible artifact to us living our brief human lives is just a Tuesday for geology. The mountain is not hiding a secret factory. It is openly displaying its turbulent history in a language of stone and rust that we are still learning to translate fluently. The real wonder, she offered, is not a lost civilization, but the ordinary planet-sculpting forces that can create such extraordinary illusions. But not every voice in this debate speaks from a university office. I also spoke with an investigator who has stood in that cave, whose hands have brushed the rust from those surfaces. For him, the mystery is not an abstract geological puzzle, it is a physical reality you can feel. The first thing you notice, he told me, is the temperature. Stone holds the cold of the mountain, but metal conducts the chill differently, a subtle but distinct sensation against your palm. And when you run your fingers along the surface of what they call pipe number 3, the one in the cave wall, you do not feel the granular, sandy texture of weathered sandstone. You feel a smooth, almost glassy finish interrupted in places by a raised ridge, a distinct seam running the length of the tube. This is not an irregular crack from cooling magma. It is a weld line, the mark where two sections were joined together. He described another fragment found near the lake that ended not in a broken, jagged edge, but in a perfectly flat flange, a widened rim with small, evenly spaced indentations around its circumference. They look like bolt holes, he said, the kind you use to secure one pipe to another with a gasket in between. This is not pareidolia, seeing faces in clouds. This is specific functional engineering. A natural iron concretion does not decide to form a bolt flange. A geological dike does not create a threaded end. These are solutions to mechanical problems, the problems of assembly, sealing, and pressure. The location itself is another piece of evidence that defies a simple natural explanation. If this were the result of some massive, ancient smelting operation, where is the rest of the infrastructure? To produce this volume of iron-based material, even of a crude sort, you would need mines for ore, sources of fuel like charcoal from vast forests and furnaces. The Qinghai highlands are a treeless, arid plateau. The nearest significant iron ore deposits are hundreds of kilometers away. There is no slag heap, no pottery shard, no trace of the massive, dirty, labor-intensive industry that would have been required to support such a project. The site is clean, silent, containing only the pipes themselves, as if they were delivered, not manufactured there. His core argument is not that the pipes are alien, but that dismissing them as merely natural is, in its own way, just as unscientific as the wildest ancient astronaut theory. Science, he reminded me, progresses by investigating anomalies, not by explaining them away to fit an existing model. To look at a threaded joint or a welded seam and declare it a trick of erosion is to close the door before looking inside. The only way to settle this once and for all is with a full-scale, transparent archaeological excavation. Not just surface scans, but a careful, layer-by-layer digging to trace the pipes to their source, to see how they connect, to find any associated artifacts or context. Until that happens, the mystery remains open, a testament not to what we know, but to what we are willing to question. The story of the Baigong Pipes might have remained a local curiosity were it not for the slow drip of information into the public sphere. The first trickle came in the late 1990s with brief, matter-of-fact reports in a handful of regional Chinese newspapers. These articles were short on detail and devoid of spectacle, often buried in the back pages. They described the discovery of some strange iron tubes in a mountain, presented more as a geological oddity than a historical bombshell. For a world not yet fully connected by the digital web, that was where the trail could have easily gone cold. But then, the early internet found it. In the early 2000s, the story began to circulate on the nascent digital forums dedicated to archaeology, the paranormal, and unexplained mysteries. These were the Wild West days of online information, where passionate amateurs and curious researchers could share grainy photographs and wild theories without a gatekeeper. The pipes, with their stark, otherworldly appearance, were perfect fuel for this new engine of speculation. Websites with names like ViewZone and Epoch Times published more extensive photo essays, framing the discovery not as an oddity but as a profound enigma. The narrative shifted from "look at this strange rock" to "science cannot explain this." This was the crucial pivot, the moment the pipes were rebranded from a geological footnote into an archaeological rebellion. This digital buzz created a resonance that traditional media could no longer ignore. By the mid-2000s, international outlets like the BBC and the Discovery Channel picked up the thread. Their approach, while more polished, often leaned heavily into the very mystery the forums had cultivated. Documentaries would feature dramatic music, slow pans across the desolate landscape, and interviews framed around questions with no answers. The focus was less on the nuanced debate between natural pipe formation and artificial construction, and more on the thrilling possibility of the impossible. Phrases like out-of-place artifact and ancient astronaut theory became part of the package, presented as equally valid sides of a debate, often without the critical weight of mainstream geological consensus. This media cycle created a powerful, self-reinforcing loop. A sensational documentary would drive thousands of new visitors to online forums, where they would find the earlier, more speculative articles, taking them as corroboration. This newfound interest would then prompt the creation of even more content, from YouTube deep dives to listicles on popular mystery sites, each layer adding to the legend while often stripping away another layer of dry, complicating fact. The consequence of this pipeline is a distinct split in public perception. For a global audience captivated by the mystery, the Baigong Pipes are now firmly established as one of the world's great unsolved puzzles, alongside the pyramids or Stonehenge. The sheer volume of media presenting them as such has made that status a reality in the cultural consciousness. However, this very process has often come at the expense of the quieter, more rigorous scientific discourse. The compelling whodunit narrative tends to overshadow the less glamorous "what is it" investigation. When a geologist explains differential erosion over 5 million years, it lacks the narrative punch of an ancient astronaut theorist suggesting interstellar engineers. In the competition for attention, the simpler, more thrilling story often wins, leaving the more complex, probabilistic truth sounding like a deflating dismissal. This media ecosystem has, in a way, built a modern mythology around the mountain, a digital folklore that is now as much a part of the Baigong phenomenon as the rusted metal itself. The pipes are no longer just objects in China, they are characters in a global story we are all writing together, a testament to our enduring desire for wonders that refuse to be neatly filed away. Perhaps the answer does not lie in the stars, but in the very earth beneath our feet, in a chapter of human history that was erased by the desert wind. What if the Baigong Pipes are not alien but simply orphaned, the last remnants of a mother culture that flourished and then vanished from the high plateau? This theory does not require interstellar travel, only a profound rethinking of our past. It asks us to consider a lost civilization of Qinghai, a society with a mastery of metallurgy and engineering that has been completely scrubbed from the conventional timeline. The local folklore, passed down for generations, might hold the first clue. Tibetan histories speak of the ancient kingdom of Zhangzhung, a powerful realm that once dominated western Tibet and parts of the plateau, said to have possessed deep spiritual and, some believe, technological knowledge. Its capital, the legendary city of Qinghai, is described in texts as a silver palace of the Garuda, a place of immense power and sophistication. While mainstream archaeology places Zhangzhung in the first millennium before the Common Era and views it as a Bronze Age culture, the legends hint at something older, something foundational. Could these stories be a cultural memory, a distorted echo of a much more ancient and advanced predecessor, a civilization that existed not thousands, but perhaps tens of thousands of years ago, during a time when the climate of the Tibetan plateau was radically different? Today, Qinghai is a high-altitude desert, a landscape of rock and dust, but geological records tell a different story. Between 10 and 5,000 years ago, during a period known as the Holocene climatic optimum, the region was significantly wetter and warmer. Lush grasslands fed by stronger monsoon rains could have supported larger, settled populations. Rivers flowed where now there are dry gullies, and Toson Lake would have been a vast, life-giving inland sea. In such an environment, a sophisticated culture could have taken root. This hypothetical civilization would have developed not in isolation, but in a delicate balance with a fertile yet demanding land. Their greatest challenge, and perhaps their greatest achievement, would have been water management. This is where the pipes find a potential purpose. Imagine a society that learned to tap the geothermal energy simmering beneath the volcanic spine of the plateau. The network of pipes, with its vitrified, heat-resistant linings, could have been a system for harnessing steam from hot springs. This steam might have heated settlements through the brutal winters, powered primitive machinery, or been used in industrial processes like metal smelting or ceramic production. Alternatively, the system could have been a monumental hydraulic work, a way to distribute precious water from artesian springs deep within Mount Baigong across farmlands or to a central settlement, using gravity and pressure in ways that would seem miraculous to later nomadic peoples. The complex composite material of the pipes suggests they were solving an extreme engineering problem, perhaps containing highly mineralized, corrosive geothermal fluids that would have destroyed clay or stone conduits in a generation. This was not simple irrigation, it was high-stakes environmental control. The civilization's decline would have been as dramatic as its rise. As the climate shifted again, becoming colder and drier, the monsoons retreated. The grasslands turned to dust, the rivers shrank, and Toson Lake began to evaporate, leaving behind its salty residue. The ecological foundation of this advanced society crumbled. Famine, migration, and social collapse would have followed. Their cities, likely built of more perishable materials like brick or timber, would have succumbed to the encroaching sands and the relentless wind, leaving no trace but foundations now buried under meters of sediment. But their most durable creations, the iron and silica veins they forged into the living rock of the mountain, would endure. These pipes, designed to last for ages, became their own tombstones. Over millennia, the desert completed its work. The sands buried the ruins, and the stories of the builders devolved into myth, transforming engineers into gods and their machinery into the iron veins of the earth spoken of by herdsmen. The lost civilization of Qinghai became the spectral kingdom of Zhangzhung, its technological prowess remembered only as mystical power. This theory is speculative, a historical ghost story, but it is grounded in the possible. It requires no aliens, only a recognition that human history is far less complete than our textbooks imply, and that the Earth, especially in a place as geologically active and climatically volatile as the Tibetan Plateau, is perfectly capable of burying its own secrets, leaving behind only the most stubborn metallic bones to hint at what once was. The logical mind rebels against the impossible, so we must ask the practical question: could the hands of ancient humans have forged these conduits? To find out, we need to step into a historical workshop to smell the charcoal and hear the clang of hammers on metal. Our journey begins in the Bronze Age with the Shang dynasty over 3,000 years ago. Their mastery was over copper and tin, alloyed into beautiful, intricate vessels used in sacred rituals. Their furnaces could reach the temperatures needed to melt bronze, but iron was a different beast, a stubborn metal that required far more heat and skill to work effectively. They knew of iron, calling it the metal from heaven in the form of rare meteoric iron, but they did not smelt it on an industrial scale. Their technology was artistic and spiritual, not engineered for 40-centimeter wide, seamless pipe production. Centuries later, by the time of the Han Dynasty around 2,000 years ago, Chinese metallurgy had undergone a revolution. They had mastered the blast furnace, producing cast iron on a massive scale for tools, weapons, and agricultural implements. They were pioneers, creating steel through processes like the fining of cast iron and even early forms of co-fusion steelmaking. This was a society that could produce iron in quantity. But could they produce the Baigong pipes? The technical answer is perhaps, but with staggering difficulty. Creating a pipe of that scale and uniformity from a cast iron composite would be a monumental foundry task even for Han engineers. More critically, the pipes show no signs of the piece mold casting technique the Chinese perfected for bronze, where a mold is built in sections around a model. The Baigong pipes, with their seamless appearance and uniform walls, suggest a different, possibly more advanced method, like centrifugal casting or extrusion, for which there is no archaeological evidence in ancient China. Then we must confront the sheer, back-breaking logistics of the site itself. Mount Baigong is not just remote, it is punishing. Transporting tons of iron ore, or even pre-smelted iron blooms, to that altitude without roads or pack animals capable of such loads would be a feat of endurance bordering on madness. You would need a small army of workers, not just skilled metallurgists, but miners, porters, charcoal makers, and cooks, all surviving in a barren landscape with little water or arable land. Where are the remains of their camp, their pottery, their tools, their graves? An operation of that magnitude leaves a scatter of debris, a cultural footprint. At Baigong, we find only the pipes, as if the workforce and their support simply vanished, leaving their most durable work behind. This logistical silence is as loud as the geological one. It suggests that if humans built this, they were not the Han, nor the Shang, nor any culture we have ever catalogued. They were a people with resources, organization, and motives so specific that they invested in a permanent, mountain-fusing installation in one of the most impractical locations imaginable. That practical improbability does not solve the mystery, it tightens its grip, forcing us to wonder who would go to such impossible lengths and for what. Resolution demands a plan, a clear path forward that moves beyond speculation and into the realm of verifiable fact. The mystery of the Baigong pipes has lingered for decades not because it is unsolvable, but because it has never been subjected to a single, definitive, and transparent scientific investigation. To end the debate and finally understand what lies within that mountain, we must outline a specific, step-by-step proposal. First, a truly independent and multidisciplinary team must be assembled and granted full, unfettered access to the site. This cannot be a group with a predetermined conclusion. It must include hard-nosed structural geologists who can read the story of the rock, expert metallurgists who can decode the language of the alloy, rigorous archaeologists trained in contextual excavation, and respected independent observers to ensure the entire process remains open and accountable. Only a chorus of different scientific voices working in concert can hope to interpret such a complex symphony of evidence. With the team in place, the second step is to see the unseen. Before a single stone is turned, the entire area must be mapped with the most advanced non-invasive tools available. Drones equipped with high-resolution cameras and thermal sensors should scan every centimeter of the surface from the air, creating a detailed topographic model. Ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR systems need to be deployed across the slopes and the lakeshore, painting a three-dimensional picture of every anomaly hidden below. This comprehensive map would be the master blueprint, showing exactly where to look and how the visible fragments connect to the subterranean whole. It would turn speculation about networks into a data-driven diagram. Step 3 is the most delicate, the moment of physical intervention. Guided by the maps, archaeologists would select a few key pipes for careful, meticulous excavation. The goal is not to dig up the entire mountain, but to surgically expose critical junctions. Imagine carefully brushing away the sediment around the point where pipe number 1 enters the cave floor, tracing its path downward to see if it connects to another line. Or exposing the flanged end of a lakeshore fragment to see if a matching piece lies buried nearby. Every grain of soil, every stone would be documented in situ, its relationship to the pipe recorded with photographs, drawings, and 3D scans. This context is everything. It is the difference between finding a lone, puzzling bolt and uncovering how that bolt was attached to a larger machine. Once samples are carefully extracted from these excavated contexts, Step 4 begins in the world's best laboratories. These are not simple chemical tests. Thin sections of the material will be placed under scanning electron microscopes, revealing its microstructure at a molecular level. Is it a chaotic jumble of crystals, or does it show the organized grain of worked metal? Isotopic analysis could attempt to date when the metal was last smelted, using techniques that measure tiny nuclear decay clocks within the material itself. Crucially, samples should be sent to multiple, internationally recognized labs in different countries. This cross-verification eliminates error or bias, ensuring the results are robust and repeatable. The final and perhaps most important step is total transparency. Every single finding, every raw data point, every high-resolution image, and every conflicting interpretation must be compiled into a comprehensive report and published openly for the entire world to examine. This publication must happen regardless of what the data reveals. If the analysis concludes the pipes are a breathtakingly rare but natural geological formation, that report must be published in full. If the evidence points unequivocally to human activity in an impossible timeframe, that too must be published. The goal cannot be to prove one theory right, but to let the evidence speak for itself wherever it leads. Only this unwavering commitment to open science, from multidisciplinary access to full data disclosure, can bring true closure. It would either solve one of archaeology's greatest puzzles or finally lay a fascinating myth to rest, allowing us to replace wonder with knowledge. The true power of the Baigong Pipes lies not in their rusted metal, but in the questions they etch into our minds. They tap into something far deeper than archaeological curiosity, a fundamental human longing to discover that our story is bigger, stranger, and more mysterious than the textbooks ever told us. We are, by nature, a species haunted by lost worlds. From the sunken streets of Atlantis to the whispered halls of Shangri-La, we are drawn to the idea of forgotten epochs, golden ages that flickered out, leaving only cryptic clues. These pipes are a physical, tangible piece of that dream. They are a promise that the past is not a closed book with all its pages neatly numbered, but a library with entire wings still locked, their contents unknown. They whisper that greatness may have risen, not in the familiar cradles of civilization along fertile rivers, but on a wind-scoured plateau, achieving something we can barely recognize before vanishing into the dust from which it came. This challenges a comforting assumption at the core of our modern identity, the idea of linear, inevitable progress. We envision human history as a steadily climbing staircase, from stone tools to smartphones, each step built firmly upon the last. The Baigong Pipes present a scenario that shatters that staircase. They suggest the terrifying and thrilling possibility of a technological peak in the deep past, a summit reached and then lost, its achievements so complete that they eroded back into the landscape itself. It is the concept of the UPOT made monumental, the fear that our current civilization might not be the first to grasp the secrets of material science, but merely the latest to stumble upon them. This is not just about ancient history, it holds a mirror to our own future. If a society capable of such engineering could leave so faint an echo, what does that say about the permanence of our own steel and glass towers? The pipes become a memento mori for civilizations, a rusty reminder that all human endeavors, no matter how advanced, are ultimately at the mercy of time. That is why we cannot look away. A mystery solved is a story with an ending, filed away and forgotten. But an enduring mystery like Baigong is a story that never ends. It keeps history alive, dynamic and participatory. It transforms the past from a static exhibit behind glass into an active crime scene where we are all detectives, piecing together clues with the tools of our era. This ongoing puzzle fuels a vital kind of curiosity, one that drives explorers to remote mountains, amateurs to scour satellite images, and scientists to re-examine long-held beliefs. It proves that wonder is not a childish emotion to be outgrown, but the essential engine of discovery. The world feels larger, more magical, and more full of potential when it contains unanswered questions of this magnitude. They are proof that the age of exploration is not over. It has simply moved from mapping coastlines to mapping the hidden contours of time itself. The silent, rusted conduits on that Chinese mountainside do more than defy explanation. They re-enchant the world, insisting that even in our age of information, true wonders still wait, patient and stubborn, for their story to be told. 30 pipes, from the silent, rusted giant in the mountain cave to the scattered, flanged fragments on the salt-crusted shore, each one has told a piece of this story. We have walked the line between wonder and skepticism, holding two impossible ideas in our hands. On one side, the evidence of human-like hands, the threaded joints, the glassy vitrified linings, the precise geometry that whispers of a blueprint. On the other, the patient, colossal power of nature, the 5-million-year-old sandstone, the potential for freakish mineral formations, the slow artistry of erosion that can sculpt illusions from solid rock. This is the heart of the Baigong enigma. It is not a simple riddle waiting for an answer, but a profound and enduring conflict between what we see and what we believe is possible. Every piece of data, from the smelter's report to the ground-penetrating radar scans, seems to point in two directions at once, leaving us in a permanent state of awe and doubt. That is why, after all this time, the Baigong Pipes remain one of the world's great unsolved historical mysteries. They are not just artifacts, they are a question etched in iron and stone, a challenge to our understanding of time, technology, and the hidden chapters of our own planet's story. They remind us that the past is not a closed book, but a landscape still full of shadows and startling, unexplained shapes. If this journey has sparked your curiosity, the story does not end here. Look deeper, read the conflicting reports, study the photographs, and if you ever find yourself standing on the windswept roof of the world, you can make the pilgrimage to Mount Baigong yourself. See the pipes with your own eyes, feel the cold metal fused to ancient stone, and listen to the silence of the mountain. Go with respect for the site and for the mystery itself. Then ask yourself the question that has echoed for decades. What do you see? The ruins of a forgotten civilization, the workshop of celestial visitors, or a masterpiece of geological chance? The answer you choose says as much about you as it does about the pipes, so share your theory. Tell us what you believe these 30 silent conduits truly are. The conversation is what keeps the mystery alive.